Alex sat quietly at his desk, staring at the piles of books spread out before him. His room was dim, with only a small desk lamp lighting up the space. It was late, well past midnight, but Alex still had a lot of studying to do. The soft hum of his laptop filled the otherwise silent room. He had always been the type to study at night, finding the quiet hours perfect for focusing. The room was a bit messy, with clothes scattered around and a few dishes left on his bed. But it was his space, and he liked it that way. Outside, the night was calm, with only the occasional rustle of wind through the trees. Alex felt comfortable, surrounded by his things and his thoughts, until a sudden knock at the door broke the silence. Alex frowned. He wasn't expecting anyone. It was way too late for visitors. The knock came again, more urgent this time. Who could it be? He stood up from his chair and walked to the door, his curiosity growing. He opened it slowly, unsure of what to expect. Standing there was a figure he recognized, but had never really spoken to. Zylar, his alien classmate. Zylar had only recently transferred to Earth from a faraway planet. They were from a species that looked human but had distinct features like slightly glowing skin, wide eyes, and small antennae on their heads. Zylar's bright blue eyes looked even wider now, filled with confusion. Hi, Alex said, still a bit taken aback. What's going on? Zylar shifted nervously on their feet, glancing behind them as if unsure about the situation. I think I made a mistake, they said, their voice soft but clear. I was supposed to go to room 304, but I think I came to the wrong door. Alex raised an eyebrow. Room 304. Are you sure? He looked down the hallway, but it was quiet. No one else seemed to be around. Zylar nodded quickly, their antennae twitching slightly. Yes, the device. It malfunctioned. I was following the signal to meet another student, but I must have gotten mixed up. Alex stepped aside, still trying to process what was going on. He couldn't help but notice how uneasy Zylar seemed. Despite their calm appearance, it was obvious they were out of place. Well, Alex said after a moment, I guess you're here now. Want to come in for a minute while you figure things out? Zylar hesitated before nodding. Yes. Thank you. Alex closed the door behind them and turned to face his unexpected guest. The room suddenly felt smaller with Zylar standing there, their otherworldly presence adding a strange energy to the space. Alex had always known Zylar was different from the other students. They didn't speak much, always keeping to themselves, as if unsure of how to fit in with the humans around them. So, what's it like on your planet? Alex asked, trying to break the awkward silence. It seemed like a harmless question, one that might help them pass the time while they figured out what to do next. Zylar's eyes brightened. It is very different from Earth, they began, their voice a little more confident now. The air is thinner, and we have 3 moons instead of 1. The people there live in large cities that float above the ground. We communicate differently, too, through gestures and thoughts. Alex nodded, impressed by the description. He had heard about alien cultures in history class, but hearing about it directly from someone like Zylar was a whole new experience. Zylar continued, explaining more about their home planet and how they had been sent to Earth as part of a program to understand human society. As Zylar spoke, Alex couldn't help but feel a little bad for them. They seemed so alone, and even though they were trying their best to fit in, it was clear they weren't having much luck. That sounds amazing, Alex said after a moment. But you're not exactly fitting in too well here, huh? Zylar looked down, their shoulders slumping a little. No, it is difficult. There are many things about Earth that I do not understand. The people here, they have their own ways, and I feel like I do not belong. Alex felt a pang of sympathy. He knew what it was like to feel out of place, to struggle with fitting in. I get it, he said quietly. I feel that way sometimes too. They both stood there in the dim light, quietly sharing their stories, each one realizing that maybe, just maybe, they weren't so different after all. The clock on Alex's desk ticked on, the night stretching on as they continued talking, both unaware of the strange twist the evening would soon take. As the minutes ticked by, Alex and Ziller continued to talk in the small room, the mood slowly shifting from awkward to more relaxed. Ziller had explained more about their planet and the challenges of being one of the few aliens attending a human school. Alex listened intently, trying to imagine what it would be like to live in a world so different from his own. Ziller's wide blue eyes sparkled as they described their home planet. "It's a beautiful place," Ziller said. "The sky is always purple, and the ground has a soft, silvery glow. Everything feels alive." They paused, looking a little sad. "But here, I don't always know what to do. The humans are so complex." Alex nodded, understanding a little more about Ziller's struggles. It was clear that Ziller wasn't like the other students in school. There was something unique about them, but it wasn't just the way they looked. It was the way they acted. Ziller often seemed confused by basic human interactions. Alex had noticed it in class. The way Ziller would hesitate before answering a simple question, or how they would stand alone in the cafeteria, unsure of where to sit. "I know what you mean," Alex said. "Humans can be confusing too. We have so many rules and expectations. Sometimes it feels like I can't keep up either." Ziller tilted their head, clearly curious. "But you fit in, don't you? You seem comfortable here." Alex laughed lightly. "Not always. I guess I just try not to think too much about it. I do what I can and let the rest figure itself out." There was a long silence as the two of them sat in Alex's room. The only sound was the soft hum of the computer and the occasional creak of the floorboards. Alex leaned back in his chair, still thinking about Ziller's words. The idea that someone could feel so out of place on Earth, it made him think. Was it really that difficult for them? Were there things he could do to help? As if reading Alex's thoughts, Ziller suddenly spoke up, their voice a little more urgent. "I need to ask you something." Alex looked up, startled. "What is it?" Ziller hesitated, their antennae twitching nervously. "I wasn't just coming here by accident. I was following a signal, something that led me to your room." Alex blinked, confused. "A signal? What kind of signal?" Ziller's eyes darted around the room, as if checking to see if anyone was listening. "It's complicated. But the truth is, I wasn't supposed to come to Earth for school. I was chosen for another mission." They took a deep breath, clearly struggling with their words. "My people are trying to understand humans, and I was sent to learn how you all interact, how you think, how you live. I was meant to observe without anyone knowing." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had a feeling this was more than just a simple mistake. Ziller wasn't here by accident. They had a reason for being here, and it was something much bigger than either of them had expected. "So, you're spying on humans?" Alex asked, his voice a little sharper than he intended. "No," Ziller quickly responded, their hands raised in defense. "It's not like that. I was sent to learn, not to cause harm. I want to understand you, Alex. I want to be part of this world, to help. But the mission, it's harder than I thought." Alex sat back, trying to process everything Ziller had just said. The whole situation felt like something out of a science fiction movie, but here it was, right in front of him. An alien, not only attending his school but secretly observing humans for some higher purpose. He wasn't sure what to think, but one thing was clear. Ziller was in trouble. "Why me?" Alex asked, more to himself than to Ziller. "Why did you come to me?" Ziller shifted uncomfortably, their gaze dropping to the floor. "Because I couldn't figure it out on my own. I don't fit in, and I don't know who else to trust. I've been watching you, and you seem different from the others. You're kind to me, even when I don't understand everything. I thought, maybe you could help me." Alex felt a strange sense of responsibility growing inside him. He wasn't sure what he was getting into, but he couldn't just ignore Zyler's plea for help. Despite the confusion, despite the fear of what this could all mean, Alex decided he wasn't going to turn his back. "I'll help you," Alex said, his voice firm. Zyler looked up, their face lighting up with a mix of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Alex. I knew I could trust you." For a moment, the two of them stood in silence, the weight of their conversation settling between them. Alex didn't know what the future would hold, but one thing was certain: his life had just gotten a lot more complicated. And somehow, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. As the night wore on, Alex and Zyler began to discuss what to do next. They both knew the risks, but they also knew they couldn't do nothing. The mission was far from over, and their connection had just begun to. The next morning, Alex woke up to a strange feeling. The events of last night, Zyler's sudden appearance, their confession about the mission, and the promise to help kept replaying in his mind. It all felt like something out of a dream. How could someone from another planet be standing in his room, sharing their deepest secrets with him? Yet it was real, and now Alex couldn't ignore it. He sat up in bed, glancing over at his desk. The books, papers, and his laptop were all still there, just as he had left them. The normal world seemed to have returned, but his thoughts were far from normal. Everything had changed. He wasn't just a regular high school student anymore. Now he was tangled in an alien mission. Alex quickly got dressed and went downstairs for breakfast. His parents were already gone for work as usual. He didn't mind. He preferred the quiet mornings. But today, his mind was focused on something else entirely. He needed to figure out how to help Zyler. They weren't just any alien. They were struggling, trying to find their place in a world that wasn't theirs. As Alex grabbed a cereal box and poured himself a bowl, his phone buzzed on the counter. He picked it up and saw a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry for last night. Can we meet at school? I need your help. Zyler." Alex stared at the message for a moment. It felt strange, knowing that an alien was reaching out to him. But the urgency in Zyler's words made him realize that their troubles weren't over. Alex quickly typed a reply. "I'll meet you at lunch. Don't worry. I'm here for you." After sending the message, Alex put his phone down and finished his breakfast. He didn't know exactly what to expect when he saw Zyler again, but one thing was clear. They needed each other. The strange connection between them had already started to grow, even in such a short amount of time. By the time Alex arrived at school, his mind was racing. The hallways were crowded with students, just like every other day. But for Alex, everything felt different. He felt like he was living in two worlds at once. There were the normal school things, classes, friends, teachers, but there was also this hidden reality now, where he was helping an alien figure out their place in a human world. He reached the cafeteria and scanned the room. He didn't see Zyler right away, but then near the back, he spotted them. Zyler was sitting alone at a table, looking as out of place as ever. Their antennae were slightly bent, and their blue eyes were focused on something, though it didn't seem like they were paying attention to it. Alex walked over, trying to act casual. He had to admit, he felt a little nervous. This was uncharted territory. But when Zyler looked up and saw him, their face brightened with relief. "Alex," Zyler exclaimed, standing up. "Thank you for coming." "No problem," Alex said, pulling out the chair across from Zyler and sitting down. "You seemed like you needed someone to talk to." Zyler hesitated for a moment, glancing around the cafeteria before speaking quietly. "I don't know how to do this," they admitted, their voice low. "The human ways, the social rules. I feel like I'm always doing something wrong." Alex nodded. He had noticed it before, the way Zyler would stand off to the side, avoiding conversation, unsure of where to sit or what to say. It was almost as if they were trying too hard to fit in, but in doing so, they only made themselves stand out more. "I get it," Alex said, his voice calm. "It's tough, but don't worry. I've been watching you, and I think you're doing better than you realize." Ziller looked at Alex, their expression a mix of confusion and hope. "You're not angry with me. Why would I be angry?" Alex said, leaning back in his chair. "You didn't ask for this. You didn't ask to be in a world that's so different from your own." Ziller's antennae twitched, a sign of their relief. I never thought humans could be so understanding." Alex smiled. "That's because you haven't met enough of us yet." The conversation turned to lighter topics, but the bond between them began to form slowly but surely. Alex shared some of his own struggles, how he felt misunderstood by his classmates sometimes, how he often tried to avoid the drama of school. Ziller, in turn, told Alex about their life on their home planet, how everything there was built to float, and how they had to learn a new way of moving and thinking in the human world. The more they spoke, the more they realized how much they had in common. As they sat together, sharing lunch, Alex noticed something strange happening. He wasn't just helping Ziller, it was like they were helping him too. It was as if their friendship was giving Alex a new perspective on his own life. Things that used to bother him, the pressure to fit in, the constant push to be like everyone else, didn't seem so important anymore. Ziller, for the first time in a long while, looked truly at ease. They were still different, but maybe that wasn't such a bad thing after all. "Thanks for being here, Alex," Ziller said, their voice quieter now. "You've made a big difference." Alex grinned. "I think we're just getting started." The rest of the school day passed by in a blur, but for Alex, everything felt a little brighter. He was no longer just a bystander in his own life. He was part of something bigger, something important, and for the first time, he felt like he and Ziller, no matter how different they were, might just find their way through this world together. In this part, the growing friendship between Alex and Ziller begins to take center stage, emphasizing their bond and mutual understanding. It's a moment of connection and support, showing that even though they come from different worlds, they're not as different as they once thought. The simple, relatable language helps make their journey feel real and grounded. The days that followed were strange yet exciting for Alex. He had never thought that helping an alien would become such a big part of his life. But as he spent more time with Ziller, he realized how much he was learning, not just about Ziller's planet, but about himself. They were so different, and yet their friendship seemed to be growing stronger with each passing day. Ziller, for their part, was trying hard to adapt to human life. They were still struggling with many things, but Alex noticed they were slowly becoming more comfortable in their surroundings. They would sit with Alex in the cafeteria, ask questions about human behavior, and even start to smile more. It was clear that Ziller wanted to learn, to fit in, and Alex admired that determination. But not everything was easy. One afternoon, as they walked through the crowded hallways of school, a group of students approached them. Alex recognized them immediately, Jake and his friends. Jake was one of the more popular students at school, and while he wasn't mean, he had a way of making people feel uncomfortable with his teasing. Today, he had his usual smirk on his face. "Hey, Ziller," Jake called out, his voice loud enough to grab everyone's attention. "You look a little lost. You sure you're in the right place?" Ziller froze for a moment, their antennae twitching nervously. Alex could feel the tension in the air. He stepped forward quickly, trying to defuse the situation before it escalated. "Jake, knock it off," Alex said firmly. "Ziller's just getting used to things here. There's no reason to make fun." Jake raised an eyebrow, clearly amused by Alex's protective attitude. "Oh, I wasn't making fun, man," he said with a grin. "Just trying to help the alien figure out where they belong. Don't want them getting lost, right?" Ziller's eyes flicked to the ground, their face flushing with discomfort. They had been trying so hard to fit in, and now it seemed like their worst fear was coming true, being seen as an outsider, a target for teasing. Alex felt a sudden rush of anger. Why couldn't people just leave Zillar alone? They were trying, and they didn't deserve to be treated like this. But instead of letting his emotions take control, Alex took a deep breath and turned to Jake. I said, "Knock it off," Alex repeated, his voice calm but firm. "Zillar doesn't need your help. They're fine." Jake stared at Alex for a moment, his expression shifting. There was a brief silence before Jake finally shrugged, as if losing interest. "Whatever, man. I'm just trying to be friendly." With that, he turned and walked away with his friends, laughing amongst themselves. Alex watched them go, feeling a mix of relief and frustration. He turned to Zillar, who was still standing there, looking like they had just been hit by a wave of confusion and hurt. "Are you okay?" Alex asked gently. Zillar didn't respond at first. They simply nodded, but their antennae drooped slightly, showing their discomfort. "I don't understand," they said quietly. "Why did he say those things? I'm just trying to be like everyone else." Alex sighed, his heart going out to Zillar. He knew the feeling. Sometimes, it seemed like no matter how hard you tried, people would find a reason to make you feel different. "Jake doesn't get it," Alex said softly. "He doesn't know what it's like to feel out of place. You don't have to change who you are to fit in with people like him." Zillar looked up at Alex, their blue eyes filled with uncertainty. "But I want to fit in. I want to be normal." Alex smiled, placing a hand on Zillar's shoulder. "You don't need to be normal. You just need to be yourself. And if you keep being yourself, the right people will see you for who you really are." Zillar's face softened a little, their antennae rising slightly. "Thank you, Alex. I'm still learning. I don't know if I can ever be like you, but I'll try." Alex gave a reassuring nod. "You're doing just fine. It's all about taking things one step at a time." The two of them walked together to their next class, and even though the encounter with Jake had left a sour feeling in the air, Alex felt a little lighter. He had defended Zillar, and it felt good to stand up for them. But more importantly, he was starting to realize that helping Zillar wasn't just about teaching them how to fit in. It was also about teaching them how to stay true to themselves. And that was something Alex could relate to more than he had ever expected. As they sat down in class, Alex glanced over at Zillar, who was quietly watching the teacher with their usual intense focus. It was strange to think that just a few weeks ago, Zillar had been a complete stranger to him. But now, they weren't just a classmate from another planet. They were someone Alex considered a friend. And though they still had a long way to go, Alex was beginning to believe that they could face whatever challenges came their way together. The weeks passed quickly, and things were slowly starting to settle into a routine for Alex and Zillar. School was still challenging for Zillar, but with Alex's help, they were learning how to navigate the complex human world. They laughed together, shared stories, and faced the little challenges of daily life, like choosing the right food in the cafeteria or figuring out how to blend in during group activities. But despite the progress, there was still an unease hanging over Zillar. They hadn't spoken much about their mission since that first night in Alex's room, and Alex could tell that Zillar was hiding something. One afternoon after school, as Alex and Zillar were walking home together, Zillar seemed especially quiet. Alex glanced over at them, noticing the way their antennae drooped slightly and their eyes were fixed on the ground. "Hey, are you okay?" Alex asked, concerned. "You've been kind of off today." Zillar hesitated, then slowly nodded. "I'm fine," they said, though their voice didn't sound convincing. "It's just something on my mind." Alex raised an eyebrow. "What's going on?" Zillar stopped walking, turning to face Alex. "There's something I've been keeping from you," they said softly, their voice barely above a whisper. "Something important." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure what Zillar was about to say, but he could feel that whatever it wasn't going to be easy to hear. "What is it?" Alex asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Zillar took a deep breath, their blue eyes looking more serious than Alex had ever seen them before. "I told you before that I was sent to observe humans." "That's true, but there's more to it." Alex waited, his curiosity growing. He wasn't sure what to expect, but he knew Zilar was about to reveal something big. "My people, my planet, are in trouble," Zyler continued, their voice trembling slightly. "We're running out of resources. Our planet is dying. And the mission I was given wasn't just to observe. It was to find a solution." Alex blinked, trying to process Zolar's words. "Find a solution? What do you mean?" Ziller's eyes looked distant, as if they were reliving painful memories. "We thought we could solve our problems on our own. But it's not enough. Our planet needs more. New energy, new technology, new resources. And the only place we can find it is here, on Earth." Alex's stomach twisted in a knot. He could feel the weight of Ziller's words settling over him. "You mean Earth is the solution?" Ziller nodded slowly. "Yes. Earth's resources, your technology, your energy, are what we need to survive. We've been watching your world for years, hoping to find a way to communicate, to ask for help. But we were never able to. Until now." Alex took a step back, trying to take in everything Zyler had just said. "So you were sent here, not just to observe, but to take what you need." His voice was shaky, a mix of confusion and concern. Ziller's eyes softened. "No, Alex, it's not like that. We don't want to take anything from you. We just need your help. We want to find a way to save our people without hurting yours." Alex looked down, his mind racing. He had always thought of Ziller as just a classmate, a friend, even if they were from another planet. But now it seemed like everything had changed. The fate of an entire planet rested on their shoulders. And Ziller had come to him, to Earth, not just for friendship, but for survival. "I don't know what to say," Alex muttered. "This is huge. Are you sure Earth is the answer?" Ziller looked at him with an expression of uncertainty. "I don't know it either, but I have to try. I have to save my people. And I believe we can do it together." Alex ran a hand through his hair, the weight of Ziller's confession pressing down on him. He had always known there was something special about Ziller, but he hadn't imagined anything like this. The alien who had once seemed so out of place was now depending on him. On Earth, there was so much unknown. So many dangers, so many possibilities. Could they really make a difference? "You're asking a lot," Alex said slowly. "But I want to help. I want to find a way." Ziller smiled softly, their antennae rising with hope. "Thank you, Alex. I knew I could count on you." For a moment, the two of them stood there in silence, the world around them continuing on without a care. But Alex knew that everything had changed. The future wasn't just about high school anymore. It was about saving a planet, saving Zeller's people. Alex felt a deep sense of responsibility. He wasn't just a regular teenager anymore. He was part of something bigger, something that would affect not just his world, but the entire galaxy. "Let's figure this out," Alex said, his voice steady with determination. "We'll do whatever it takes, together." The next few days felt like a whirlwind. After Zyler's confession, Alex couldn't stop thinking about the weight of what they had to do. They weren't just talking about homework or school projects anymore. They were talking about saving an entire planet, Zyler's home. It felt too big for one person, or even two. But somehow, Alex knew they had to try. Ziller had been more focused than ever since that conversation. They had started researching Earth's technology and resources more intently, asking Alex questions about energy sources, power plants, and anything else that might help their planet. But as the days passed, Alex realized that Ziller needed more than just knowledge. They needed connections, people who could help, people who would believe them. And that's where Alex came in. After school one afternoon, Alex found Ziller sitting at a bench outside, their eyes fixed on a tablet. They were reading something about renewable energy sources, looking for any clues that might lead to a solution. Alex walked over, sitting down next to them. "Have you found anything useful?" Alex asked, glancing at the screen. Ziller sighed, looking up at Alex. "There's so much information, but nothing that feels right. The technology here is different from what we have. I don't know how to explain it." Alex thought for a moment. Maybe we're going about this the wrong way. We can't just study Earth's technology and hope for a solution. Maybe we need to find people who are already working on this stuff. You know, experts, scientists. They might have the knowledge we need. Ziller's eyes lit up. "You're right. We can't do it alone. We need help." "But who would believe us?" Alex asked, frowning. "I mean, you're an alien, and I'm just a regular high school student. Who's going to take us seriously?" Ziller seemed to consider this for a moment before replying. "We don't need to tell them everything at once. Maybe we can start small with someone who won't freak out. We can explain the situation, show them the technology we need. If they see that we're serious, they might help us." Alex nodded slowly. It made sense. They didn't need to tell the whole truth right away. They just needed to find someone who would listen and be willing to help. "All right," Alex said, a plan beginning to form in his mind. "I know a guy. His name's Dr. Carter. He's a scientist who works with energy solutions. I've seen him give talks at school before. He's smart, and he's always talking about how we need to find better, cleaner energy. Maybe he'll understand what we're asking." Ziller's antennae flicked upward. "Do you think he'll believe us?" "I think he might," Alex said, feeling a little more confident. "But we have to be careful. We can't give him all the details, just enough to get him on our side." The next day, after school, Alex and Ziller made their way to Dr. Carter's office. It wasn't far from the school, a small building on the edge of town where Dr. Carter did most of his research. The air around them felt thick with anticipation. Alex had never been so nervous about meeting someone before, but this wasn't just any meeting. This was their chance to get the help they needed. When they arrived, they were greeted by a receptionist who seemed a little surprised to see two students, one of them an alien, standing in the lobby. But Alex quickly explained that they had an appointment with Dr. Carter, and after a few moments, they were led into his office. Dr. Carter was an older man with glasses and messy white hair. He looked up from his desk as they entered and gave them a warm smile. "Ah, Alex, I wasn't expecting you, but it's good to see you. And you must be Zylar." Ziller nodded, their antennae standing tall. "Yes. Thank you for meeting with us." Dr. Carter motioned for them to sit. "Of course. What can I help you with?" Alex took a deep breath. "We've come because we need your help. We know this sounds strange, but Ziller here is from another planet, and their people are in serious trouble. They need resources to survive, and we think Earth might have what they need." Dr. Carter raised an eyebrow, but didn't interrupt. "I see. This is quite unusual, but I'm always open to new ideas. Tell me more." Alex and Ziller explained what they could, focusing on the need for energy and resources. They didn't go into too much detail about Zylar's mission or the danger their planet was facing, but they painted a picture of a world on the brink of collapse, one that could be saved if Earth could help. Dr. Carter listened carefully, nodding along as they spoke. When they finished, he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. "This is fascinating," he said thoughtfully. "I've heard rumors about things like this, but I never thought it would be real. You've done your research, and your problem is serious. I can't promise anything, but I know people in the energy field who might be able to help. If you're really serious about this, we can try to get some resources to help Zylar's people." Alex and Ziller exchanged a look of relief. "You'll help us?" Alex asked, almost unable to believe it. Dr. Carter smiled. "I'll do what I can, but you both have to understand, this isn't going to be easy. We're talking about finding a solution that could change everything. It'll take time, but I'm willing to try." Ziller's eyes sparkled with hope. "Thank you, Dr. Carter. We won't let you down." Alex felt a surge of gratitude. They had taken the first step, and now there was a real chance, that they could make a difference. Together, they would do whatever it took to save Ziller's planet. And for the first time, Alex believed they could actually succeed. In this part, Alex and Ziller take a big step forward by seeking help from an expert, Dr. Carter. It highlights the growing sense of urgency in the beginning of their action plan. The simplicity of the language keeps the story grounded while still building the tension and excitement for what's to come. After meeting with Dr. Carter, Alex and Ziller felt a new sense of hope. For the first time, they had an actual ally, a person who believed in their cause. Dr. Carter had promised to connect them with people in the energy field who could help, and that was a big step forward. It was still a long road ahead, but it was a road that now felt a little less uncertain. The next few days were filled with meetings and phone calls. Dr. Carter kept his word and put them in touch with some of the leading scientists in the renewable energy sector. They didn't know exactly how it would all work, but they were learning more and more about Earth's resources and what Ziller's planet might need. Ziller was still processing everything, but they were more determined than ever. They spent hours with Alex, looking over data, studying energy sources, and preparing for the next step. They didn't talk about the details of Ziller's planet much anymore, only when it was necessary. But Alex could see that Ziller was anxious. Every time they mentioned their home, their antennae drooped, and their eyes grew distant. It was as if they were carrying the weight of their entire planet on their shoulders. One afternoon, as they sat in Alex's room going over some of Dr. Carter's notes, Ziller finally spoke up. "Alex," Ziller said quietly, looking up from the papers, "I've been thinking a lot about my people, about my planet. I know we've been focusing on finding resources, but do you think it's too late? Are we too far gone?" Alex was surprised by the question. Ziller had always been focused, always optimistic, even when things seemed impossible. But now, it was clear that the pressure was starting to get to them. Alex put down the papers and looked at Ziller, his expression softening. "I don't know, but I do know one thing. We can't give up. We've taken the first step. We're trying, and that's all we can do right now. You didn't come all this way just to stop because it's hard." Ziller looked down, nodding slowly. "You're right. I don't want to fail. I can't fail." Alex placed a hand on Ziller's shoulder. "You're not alone in this, okay? We're in this together. And together, we can make it happen." Ziller gave a small, grateful smile, and for the first time in a while, their antennae perked up. "Thank you, Alex. I don't know what I would do without you." Alex smiled back, feeling a warmth spread through him. They had come so far, and even though the journey ahead was still uncertain, he knew that they could face it as long as they had each other. That evening, as Alex and Ziller were finishing up their work, Alex's phone buzzed. It was a message from Dr. Carter. "I've got a meeting with a colleague who's working on something that could help. Meet me tomorrow at my office, and we'll talk more. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for." Alex quickly showed the message to Ziller, and their eyes lit up with excitement. "This is it, Alex. This could be the answer." The next day, Alex and Ziller went to Dr. Carter's office once again. This time, they weren't just there to talk. They were there to find out if the breakthrough Dr. Carter had promised could actually help them. When they arrived, Dr. Carter was waiting for them in his office, looking even more excited than usual. "You two are right on time. This is a big step, and I think we're getting close." He led them into a conference room, where another scientist was sitting. She was a woman in her mid-30s, with short black hair and glasses. She smiled at them as they entered. "Hello, I'm Dr. Lauren Fields. Dr. Carter has told me a little about your situation, and I think I might be able to help." Ziller looked at Dr. Fields with curiosity. "You think you can help us?" Dr. Fields nodded. I've been working on a new type of energy converter. It's still in the early stages, but the theory is solid. If we can harness this technology, we could potentially power entire cities with a fraction of the resources currently needed. It's a long shot, but it might be the key. Alex and Ziller exchanged a glance. The possibility sounded amazing, but also too good to be true. How does it work? Alex asked. Dr. Fields smiled. It's based on a new way of storing and transferring energy, using a method that's not only efficient, but also sustainable. If we can perfect it, it could revolutionize energy production. And if you're right about the needs of your planet, Ziller, this could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for. Ziller's antennae shot up in excitement. You mean, this could save my people? Dr. Fields nodded. If everything goes as planned, yes. But we'll need your help, Ziller. We'll need to work together to refine the technology and find a way to adapt it for your planet's specific needs. Alex looked at Ziller, his heart pounding. The days following the meeting with Dr. Fields felt like a blur. Alex and Ziller were both excited and overwhelmed by the potential of the new energy converter technology. They had come so far, and now they had a real chance to make a difference. But as the reality of the task set in, the pressure began to mount. Dr. Fields and Dr. Carter worked tirelessly on refining the technology, while Alex and Ziller did their best to help in any way they could. Ziller's knowledge of advanced energy systems from their home planet was invaluable, and they spent long hours explaining concepts and offering ideas that Alex never could have imagined. Despite the complexity of the work, Ziller seemed to come alive when talking about energy, their excitement infectious. One afternoon, as they were wrapping up a long day of research at Dr. Carter's office, Alex and Ziller sat outside on a bench, catching their breath. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Do you think we're really going to make it? Alex asked, looking over at Ziller. Ziller didn't answer immediately. They stared at the horizon, deep in thought. I don't know. Every time I think we're getting closer, it feels like there's another problem to solve. But I have to believe that we can do this. If I don't believe, then what's the point? Alex nodded, feeling the same way. I get it. It's like we're fighting against time. But we're not alone in this anymore. We've got Dr. Fields and Dr. Carter, and we're doing everything we can. Ziller smiled faintly, their antennae twitching. You're right. We're not alone. And that makes all the difference. The next few days were filled with intense work. Dr. Fields, Dr. Carter, Ziller, and Alex spent countless hours testing the energy converter. It was a complicated process, with many setbacks, but they were making progress. Every time they hit a roadblock, Ziller's knowledge and Alex's determination seemed to push them forward. One evening, just as they were about to leave the lab for the night, Dr. Fields came rushing in, a wide grin on her face. I think we've done it. The converter, it's working. Alex and Ziller stood up, stunned. What do you mean, it's working? Alex asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Dr. Fields walked over to a machine in the corner of the lab and flipped a switch. The machine hummed to life, lights flashing as it began to draw energy from a small power source. The room filled with the sound of whirring gears and the soft buzz of electricity. It's not perfect, Dr. Fields said, her voice filled with excitement. But it's a breakthrough. We've got energy flowing, and it's stable. This is the first step toward what we need. Ziller's eyes lit up with excitement. Their antennae were fully raised, and they couldn't stop smiling. This is incredible. It's exactly what we needed. It's a real solution. Alex looked at the machine, his heart racing. He couldn't believe it. They were so close to saving Ziller's planet. But there was still a long way to go. The technology was far from perfect, and they needed to fine-tune it to meet the needs of Ziller's homeworld. Dr. Carter, who had been standing quietly in the background, spoke up. This is a huge step, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us. We need to scale this up, make it more efficient, and adapt it to the energy needs of Ziller's planet. Ziller nodded eagerly. We can do it. We have the knowledge. I can help with the adjustments. My people have studied energy systems for centuries. We just need to apply what we know to this new technology. Alex couldn't help but smile. For the first time, it felt like they were on the right track. It wasn't just hope anymore. It was a real possibility. The dream of saving Ziller's planet was no longer a distant fantasy. It was within their reach. As the team worked late into the night, fine-tuning the converter, Alex sat back for a moment, taking it all in. It was overwhelming to think about everything they had accomplished so far. From the moment Ziller had shown up in Alex's room, lost and confused, to this point where they were on the brink of something incredible, it had been a whirlwind. But Alex also knew that there was still more to do. There were still challenges ahead, and the future of Ziller's planet depended on their success. The pressure was immense, but Alex was more determined than ever. They had come too far to stop now. Ziller sat next to Alex, their voice steady and filled with resolve. We're not finished yet, but we're getting closer, and I believe we'll make it. Alex looked over at Ziller, his heart swelling with pride. I believe that too. As the night wore on, they continued to work, the sound of their collaboration filling the lab. They were closer than ever to the solution Ziller's people so desperately needed. And though the road ahead was still uncertain, Alex knew that together, they could overcome anything. The days leading up to the final test felt like a blur. Every hour was filled with work, calculations, and adjustments. Ziller, Alex, Dr. Carter, and Dr. Fields were all in a race against time. The energy converter was working, but it wasn't perfect yet. There were still some problems to solve before it could be used on a large scale, and the pressure was growing. Ziller had become more and more involved in the project, offering their knowledge of energy systems from their home planet. They were eager to help, knowing that the future of their world depended on the success of this experiment. But it wasn't just Ziller who was feeling the pressure. Alex could feel it too. Every day brought new challenges, and the weight of saving an entire planet was heavier than they ever expected. One evening, as they were working late in Dr. Field's lab, the team gathered around the energy converter, hoping for a breakthrough. The machine hummed softly, its lights flashing as it drew energy. But there was still something off. The energy output wasn't stable, and the converter kept overheating. "We're so close," Dr. Carter said, his voice tinged with frustration. "But we're missing something. If we can't fix this last issue, all of our work will be for nothing." Alex looked at Ziller, who was standing by the machine, their antennae drooping in thought. They had been quiet for the past few hours, focusing on the problem. Ziller turned to Alex, their eyes filled with determination. "I know what's wrong," Ziller said, their voice steady. "We've been focusing too much on Earth's systems. The converter needs a different energy flow, one that's more aligned with the systems we use on my planet. I think I can make the adjustment." Alex's heart skipped a beat. "Are you sure? We don't have much time." Ziller nodded, their face serious. "I'm sure. This is the missing piece, but I'll need your help." Dr. Fields and Dr. Carter exchanged looks, both of them unsure but willing to give it a shot. "Go ahead, Ziller," Dr. Fields said. "If you think this will work, we trust you." Ziller moved closer to the machine, their hands working quickly and carefully as they began to make the necessary adjustments. Alex stood by, watching intently, offering help when needed. They both knew that this could be their last chance. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on them. Hours passed, and the tension in the room grew. Finally, Ziller stepped back, wiping the sweat from their brow. "It's done. We've made the change." Alex held their breath. "Do you think it will work?" Ziller gave a small nod. "It should, but we'll have to test it." Dr. Carter stepped forward. "All right then. Let's see what we've got." Ziller pressed the button to activate the converter, and the room went silent. The machine hummed to life, its lights blinking in a pattern that was steady and controlled. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the energy flow began to stabilize. The converter was working, drawing energy in a way it never had before. Slowly, the readings on the display screen began to climb. "It's working," Dr. Fields exclaimed, her voice full of excitement. The energy output was stable, consistent, and strong. It was exactly what they needed. Zyler's face lit up with joy. Their antennae stood tall, and for the first time in what felt like forever, they allowed themselves to feel hope. Alex couldn't contain their excitement either. "It's happening. We're actually doing it." Dr. Carter smiled broadly. "This is the breakthrough we needed. Zyler, your adjustments worked perfectly." Ziller beamed with pride. "We did it. This is just the beginning, but it's the first step towards saving my people." The team stood in awe, looking at the machine that now held the promise of a better future for Ziller's planet. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The energy converter could now be scaled up, and with enough resources, it could provide the power Zyler's world so desperately needed. As the lab started to quiet down, Alex turned to Ziller, their eyes filled with gratitude. "You did it. We did it. This is going to change everything." Ziller smiled, their antennae flicking up in delight. "No, we did it. Together." But even as they celebrated their success, Alex knew there was still more to do. They had made it this far, but the road ahead was still full of challenges. They needed to make sure that the converter could be replicated, that it could be scaled to meet the needs of Ziller's people. They had to figure out how to get the resources and support they would need to transport the technology back to Ziller's planet. And most importantly, they had to be ready for whatever obstacles lay ahead. But for now, they had succeeded. They had taken the first step towards saving an entire world, and it was a step that would change everything. As they packed up their things and prepared to leave the lab, Zyler turned to Alex. "This is just the beginning. There's still so much we have to do, but no matter what, I know we'll make it." Alex smiled, feeling a sense of peace they hadn't felt in a long time. "I know we will, Zyler. Together, we can do anything." And as they walked out of the lab, the future felt a little brighter, and for the first time, it seemed like nothing could stand in their way. In this final part, Alex and Ziller faced their biggest challenge yet, making the energy converter work. Through hard work, determination, and teamwork, they succeed in making the breakthrough that could save Zyler's planet. The simple language and strong emotional connection between the characters highlight the significance of their accomplishment, while leaving room for the next chapter of their journey.